every day when I wake up trying to see your face. It could only have been you, no one in your place. Sometimes I feel it deep, so it's hard to say. But not today, no, not today.
So, what factors can increase or decrease trust in a marriage?
What's going to increase or decrease trust in a marriage? I think you said something earlier that I didn't necessarily completely agree with. I think I blanket trust my partner, and then if shown otherwise, the trust can be affected. But I think ultimately trust is a choice. So you have to choose to trust. So I'm thinking, what can increase or decrease trust in a marriage? I think I just approach it with a blanket. So all the trust, you have all my trust. So it's not a case of increasing or decreasing. You have it all. So in that sense, what can happen to that trust is that it can be, I won't say decreased, but it can be like damaged, or it can be like, oh, hypothetically, this has not happened or so forth, but let's say something happens, I don't know, infidelity or something like that. Never experienced that, but that would then mean all the trust is damaged, or it's hurt, or it's like, now it's like maybe you're a bit more anxious around certain things. You might be, where were you there? Or, oh, were you really there? Or, da-da-da-da-da. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I think that could happen. But at this moment in time, no, I think it's just that's how I approach it anyway. It's a blanket trust. And then it can be damaged or hurt by actions that would impact the trust.
Yeah, I think we approach it differently. I think for me, I think personally, I think trust builds. I did not blanket trust you when we first met. I think the trust built over time, and as the comfortability built, as the, it's almost like credits, right? You rack up trust credits as you grow with someone, as you go through experiences, as you go through life. You figure out, am I able to depend upon this person? Is this person the person of integrity? You figure out the character. And I think, like, I do not blanket trust everyone. Like, I even think a blanket trust of everyone is a bit dangerous sometimes, because not everyone deserves that, in truth. So yeah, I think what factors can increase or decrease? I think increase can be for women, like, from their man, love, attention, like understanding love languages, being present in the relationship, showing that you're helping, that you're being just sensitive to your partner's needs. And I think by default, you feel like, okay, this person is thinking about me. I can trust they've got my best interests at heart. But if they are disinterested, kind of doing their own thing, like secretive, then you start to feel like this is impacting negatively the trust in this relationship. So I don't necessarily think it has to be a large event. People always think, oh, it's infidelity, or it's like a big violation. I think how you live your life day to day definitely can affect how someone perceives how in a marriage you are, because you can be in it but you're not present. You just have a ring on and you're not present. You're not in the house. You're not aware of the issues. You're not sensitive to your partner's mood or feelings or all of those sorts of things, which in my opinion are very, very important. And it's those little things in a marriage. It's not big gestures. It's not about big gestures. It's about every single day. And yeah, so that's what I think.
Yeah, I think kind of follow up your point. I don't blanket trust everyone. This is talk about trust in a marriage, in a relationship. So I think in that sense, it's like, yeah, to the
Yeah, but you
partners.
said you didn't agree with my point that trust builds. And I had been using an analogy of our relationship when we first started, that the
Yeah,
trust
but this is
built.
in a marriage though. Trust in a
Yeah, but
marriage.
even in trust in a marriage builds, a marriage is not, it's stages.
Yeah, I'm not coming against your point. I'm just sharing my point, which is like, first of all, I don't blanket trust everyone, but second of all, like in a marriage, from my view anyway, I think there has to be, from what you can consciously perceive in terms of my level of trust. No, it has to be from my perspective. I think there is a blanket trust, which is like, I give you all my trust. And in that sense, it's like, and maybe we're looking at it from different angles as well. Because it's like, from what you're, no, I won't review what you're saying, but if I think of what you're saying in terms of what I'm thinking, okay, cool, if you act in certain ways that like I don't like, or pick me a certain way, or point me a certain way, or jar me a certain way, I don't see that as impacting the trust. I see that as, okay, we need to discuss, I need to share how I feel, ultimately knowing I can't control you, but I can share how I feel, and the trust is in a relationship, and trust in you, or vice versa, whatever, is that you hear how I'm feeling, and you hear what I think about it, and then if you so choose to, adjust accordingly. But then that doesn't impact the trust for me. That's just like, the trust is something that's just given. What impacts the trust is, for me, bigger events, I'd say. So you say it's smaller events, but for me, I'd say it's like bigger things that impact this trust. Like my trust, or the way I see trust, is quite like, yeah, how I've described it. So in that aspect, that's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe there's also a gender difference here. So I think a lot of the time it's like an assault on trust. When people talk about trust being impacted, they're more time talking about assault on the situation.
What does that mean?
So like you say, big event, like a infidelity is an assault on like your trust level with your partner. Because it's like something's hitting you and it's a madness. I don't necessarily only see impacts that way. But yeah, I guess you can have different viewpoints on things, that's fine. But yeah, I think what also grows in the marriage is probably your capacity to trust, because as you grow in stages, you can see marriage as a young baby, as a child grows in age, they grow in capacity to do things. They grow in capacity to understand concepts and understand more complex concepts. So as your marriage grows, I expect your sensitivity to your partner's like intricacies and quirks and kinks should also grow, because you've had more time in the marriage to expand your capacity to trust. That's my personal viewing of it. But yeah.
So do you think that if, let's say, for example, let's say the micro assaults, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Do those micro assaults on your trust impact the way you then behave towards your partner?
I think so, definitely, because it's like, if you don't care, I don't care, innit? And you have to get to a place again in your because marriage is like you're growing together, but you're also growing individually because it's a mirror, right? So when you get to the place that those micro assaults might become very, very, very micro, because your trust capacity has increased. So it's like the bigger the bottle or the bigger the vessel to hold water, like the less impact a drop has. But if there's a tiny bit of water in this vessel, you make a drop, it makes a particular impact. If it's a large vessel, then it makes a drop. You might not even notice it. It's the same thing, as a marriage grows, but there's context around everything. So I think sometimes language and understanding of the fact that marriage is a living, breathing thing is important. It's not stagnant. It's not just language is a marriage, yes, but a marriage doesn't look the same 6 months on as it does 2 years on. So, your capacity for factors that affect you, is different.
Fair enough.
My opinion.
Sweet. Okay, up. My question. When should a couple consider getting therapy in a marriage?
If you can afford it, from day one.
Yeah, I agree.
As soon as you jump the broom, say I do.
Therapy as in like counselling, taking wise advice, being led by people who have walked down the marriage path before you. In some way, shape or form, definitely. Take that and just get wisdom, man. Get wisdom in terms of your marriage and so forth. And how to do marriage, I think we kind of came into it a bit, because myself, came into understanding, maybe a bit naive with regards to what was on the other side of marriage in terms of what was required. We hadn't lived together before we got married, and that was a whole change in itself, and being married and so forth. So I think, and also you come into marriage with expectations about what marriage is, and just like different things, there's so many different things to navigate. I think it's just wise to have, not necessarily therapy, but just wisdom from people that have gone down the line and are married, in my opinion, and have like experience to share with you, and kind of guide, and you can see as authoritative voices. I think that's an important point. You can see them as authoritative voices that they say to you, do this. Well, basically mentorship or so forth. Where they say to you, as a marriage, you guys need to do this. So to this, I think that's really important. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important. I also think it's important, if you can afford it, to get therapy individually and together, because I think marriage is very confronting, because you face situations with someone you very much care about in close proximity, close quarters. You've got joint life decisions to make, and so the confrontational nature, not necessarily confrontational in terms of just argumentative, but the confrontational nature of issues, concepts, joint decision making, the things that you might be super fixed on, that you might not even have ever thought that you were super fixed on before you were put in the situation to share your views, and there's now a life consequence attached. So I think it's really important to be as introspective as possible. I think the process of introspection is probably always ongoing. It's probably never ends, because as you grow, you experience new things, you continue, and you're bringing all of your experiences to your other half in the space that you both exist within. So introspection is incredibly important, and it's not a one-day job. So yeah, I think that people come with expectations of how they're going to be. You might even surprise yourself how you react in certain situations, how passionate you get, the things that come out of your mouth. You might be shocked, and so yeah, I think therapy is important. That's a journey that I'm looking to get on in the very near future as well. And I think working on yourself and investing in your marriage can never ever be a bad thing. So yeah, the more you are able to get on a even keel by a professional, I think in the faith community, counselling definitely has its place. But I also think a trained professional that has the understanding of psychology and not that some counselors in the church don't get me wrong, but someone that you're paying to, you know, for their expertise in this particular area, invested in yourself to get the best out of you, and that person's, it's literally their job to, you know, create an environment and ask you questions, prodding questions that are gonna take you places that you probably don't want to go for your own benefit and betterment. How does one build trust in a marriage, or is trust built during courtship?
You first?
I just answered.
How does one build trust in marriage? Just put in a courtship. I think, again, go back to what I said about that kind of blanket trust thing. I think from my perspective anyway, I think it's wise to get to a point where I say, I'm going to trust this person, or I trust this person, and then off the back of that, like my approach to it anyway is that, okay, I trust this person, then things can happen and you might have arguments or this or so forth, and you can make decisions, and that person might, let's say, violate the trust, or they might like lie to you or hide something from you and so forth, and you assess those accordingly. But I think there's definitely a wisdom in giving your partner the fullness of trust and then navigating accordingly. Because I think when you give your partner the fullness of trust, there's a certain leaned-in nature that they get that they don't get if they don't have the fullness of trust. And what I mean by that is, they don't have the fullness of trust. It's kind of always like a watch and see thing, or a wait and see thing, where it's like, we're kind of, and it's like what I've seen in relationships and so forth. It can be a wait and see thing where it's like, okay, like, I've given him a bit more trust, let's see what he does with it. I've given this bit more trust, let's see what he does with it. Oh, taking it back. Oh, da-da-da-da-da. And that's like, I don't think that's the best ground for relationship to prosper in. I think, from my perspective, it's 100%. I think, from my perspective, it should be 100%, 100%. And then you navigate accordingly what happens. Let's say we keep going back to it, it's a big violation of trust. Or like, and even in terms of reasons for breaking up, let's say you're not on the same page. But if you're not on the same page, that's not a trust-related thing. That's just, you're not going to the same place, right? You're not on the same page. But let's say trust-related reasons for breakups, the big ones, let's say infidelity, or cheating, or
That's
hiding.
infidelity.
Oh, sorry, yeah, infidelity, cheating, hiding some, I don't know, like, hiding a child. You're hiding your son. Like, I don't know, like, those,
okay.
I'm just saying it, like, if you look about, like, those reasons, trust-based reasons for breaking up or ending a relationship or a marriage or so forth. Do you know what I'm trying to say? If you look in the Bible, one of the main reasons Jesus said was, like, infidelity. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And that's a trust-based reason. Like, I trusted you to honor your vows. You have broken your vows. Therefore, da-da-da-da-da, whatever. I think if you don't go at it as in 100%, I think there's things that are missed out in a relationship that could be there, or that could be there, but are felt if they are missed. And they're not like relationship breaking points, but are definitely value add points in the relationship if they're there, in my opinion. So in terms of, say the question again, sorry.
How does one build trust in a marriage, or is trust built during courtship?
Yeah, so in terms of that, I think once you get to that point and say, you know what, this is the person, I think lock it in and navigate accordingly. Obviously, before that point, I think, and this kind of links to the way my brain works, like, I can't really get into a serious relationship with someone I've only been in 2 serious relationships. And I can't get into a relationship with someone if I don't see like a future with them, like a match, and kind of see, oh yeah, this could be da. So I think for me, and maybe that's just where my brain works. Some people's brain works a bit differently. Some people come in at a different angle. And to be fair, another approach might work for them. It's like, you know what? Let's just kind of see how it goes. Let's just see like step by step and so forth, growing and that sort of thing. I think that's fine. It's a different approach. But for me to even get into a relationship, I have to have assessed it, understood the person to a certain extent, looked around it, obviously prayed about it and so forth. And then I'm in. And then when I'm in until it's like, yeah, this is not working, or it's not 100%, it's not going, and then it's done. So I think that being in my approach, aligning with that approach of inness, it's like, yeah, I'll give you this trust, and then we'll navigate accordingly. So, yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, I think it's built during a courtship. That's my view on it. I think you just start as you mean to go on, because a courtship is a time to like learn more about the person, understand more. And so if you don't build that trust within a courtship, a marriage is really the wrong place to start to build it, because there's way too much going on already. So you want to endeavour to get on the same page, like on as many things as possible. And so I think that's critical during a courtship. But again, I want to caveat this whole thing by saying I'm not giving advice. It's just my opinion. Definitely. Because like, I think there are so many people who want to are dying to tell people how to do life, how to do love, how to do relationships. And I think that is just confusing the waters a lot of the time, because like my mum's perspective, having been married now nearly for 40 years, or even more than that, so she's 60 now, so 42 years, like I think she is qualified to give marriage advice because of the longevity. I think that our generation, with all the best intentions in the world, I'm sure loads of people have great intentions, but it's such a, like, marriage is such a complex topic that it's good to take in wisdom and positive vantage points, but modeling your whole life after what you see on Instagram and what you see on TikTok and what these type of individuals share with you, you don't even know what spirit they're coming with, you know, you got to be careful. So yeah, that's just my view on that, is that I think trust is built during courtship and you just build on that in marriage. But that's my view. So thanks guys for joining us again for episode 4. This is a bit of a deeper one, but hopefully it was helpful and impactful in some way.
Every day when I wake up trying to see